Beautiful boxing fans, since there's no major fight card this weekend when it comes to MMA or boxing, let's talk about this Misfits card headlined by Luke Rockhold, UFC legend, one of the greatest middleweights of all time, going up against former welterweight title challenger in the UFC and former UFC middleweight, the pride of the UK, Darren Till. Let's talk about it, ladies and gentlemen. Listen, I believe that when you put Luke Rockhold, if you put Luke Rockhold in a cage versus Darren Till, it's a mismatch. Luke is bigger, stronger, sharper, faster, got way more tools in the toolbox. With his grappling, kicking, absolutely devastating kicker, Luke Rockhold is. But his main weakness has always been his mindset. The man always underestimated his opponents, which resulted in him getting knocked out many times versus people who he shouldn't have lost to, especially by knockout. On the other hand, you got Darren Till. Darren Till, phenomenal Muay Thai fighter in his day. The man, I believe, peaked early in the UFC. We always thought that Darren Till was going to achieve a lot of great things in the UFC, becoming possibly two-division UFC champion, welterweight and middleweight. But the man never really fulfilled his potential. Why? For many reasons. One of them mainly is his grappling. It was never his strongest point, his strongest asset. But now, this is a boxing match. Completely different story. So, let's talk about it. Who got the better hands? Listen, Darren Till is tighter, is sharper, and puts his combinations better than Luke Rockhold. But Luke Rockhold got longer arms, got a longer jab, and most importantly, I believe, when you talk about straight shots, Luke Rockhold is better. When you talk about throwing the 1-2. But the man's balance fails him and the man's stamina fails him, few minutes in to the fight. So this will be Luke Rockhold's biggest problem. Usually when Luke Rockhold is tired in a fight, the man knows how to hold. The man knows how to wrestle you. The man knows how to stall. But when you talk about a boxing setting, there's no place to hide. There's no place to rest. And this is my main issue. Listen, I love Luke Rockhold. I'm actually rooting for Luke Rockhold in this fight. He's been one of my favorite fighters for the longest. But I gotta be honest, Darren Till has been boxing for longer than Luke. And Darren Till is actually training in a professional, elite boxing gym. He trains in Liverpool with Coach Joe McNally, the trainer of many unbelievable boxers, including Liam Smith. The list goes on and on. Even Dennis McCann, the fighter who just tested positive for PEDs and he's suspended right now. Where is Dennis McCann? That's another question for another day. But getting back into the topic, Joe McNally is an unbelievable trainer. Unbelievable trainer, not just when you talk about teaching the correct technique to his boxers, but most importantly, he's a very good coach to have when you talk about the mental aspect of the game. The man is experienced and the man knows how to talk to his fighters. The man knows how to comfort his fighters. The man knows how to motivate his fighters. So listen, Luke Rockhold, no question, the man is up against it. Every single odd is stacked against Luke's favor. Darren Till, he fought, I believe, on Misfits in a boxing setting a couple of times. And if you actually think about it, Darren Till is actually young. The man's very young. From his career, you'd think that the man is 40 years old, but I believe he's in his early 30s. But he might be young when you talk about the age. But when you talk about the miles on the clock, when you talk about the wear and tear on the body, the man is old. The man's knees are shot, his back is shot, his neck. I mean, so many injuries, so many surgeries. When you talk about Darren Till, the man is definitely, I believe, is not in his prime. Especially because Darren never really lived the life of a professional athlete from what he's been showing us for nearly the past decade. On the other hand, Luke Rockhold is an absolute specimen. I mean, you can tell that Luke's genetics are way more superior than Darren's genetics. And Luke, if you actually talk about his talent, the man is so talented, but I also believe that Luke Rockhold is way past his prime, and Luke Rockhold never had the best gas tank, not because the man doesn't work on his cardio, of course not, but because of the man's style. He doesn't throw anything to set up shots. The man throws every single punch and every single kick in his day to take your head off, which gasses you out. And more than that, I don't believe that Luke Rockhold is based out of a professional boxing gym. So meaning, we don't really know how Luke Rockhold will hold up in the squared circle when you talk about his ring IQ, when you talk about his boxing IQ. I believe that Darren Till's boxing IQ is better than Luke Rockhold. But then again, Luke is way more talented, he's way bigger, way stronger, way sharper, way more lethal when you talk about the striking aspect of combat sports. But boxing specifically, you gotta give the edge to Darren Till. And it's gonna be two southpaws. And more times than not, in these misfits events, from what I have noticed, when you put two big southpaws against each other, someone's going down. Someone's going down, and especially with Luke Rockhold's mindset. I mean, listen, Luke Rockhold, you gotta love this about him. The man always has this mentality, go big or go home. The man comes to take you out, or either he's gonna get taken out from how aggressive and how reckless he can be sometimes. And if you think about it, Luke Rockhold, I mean, the man fought Joe Schilling not far away from here. I believe few minutes away from here, he fought Joe Schilling in a kickboxing setting in Joe Schilling's home and knocked him out. Went to bare knuckle in Mike Perry's world and listen, gave him a good fight. Rocked him, hurt him, stunned him, cut him. But then Perry broke the man's face. I mean, he broke his teeth. And Luke had to stop the fight. And Luke also, I mean, Luke is, now he's going to Darren's world. Darren's been fighting in the Misfits world for the past year. So look at what Luke Rockhold does. The man shows up to Darren's world and he's ready to give him an absolute war. So this is what you gotta love about Luke Rockhold, ladies and gentlemen. Luke Rockhold is the epitome of what a fighter is and what a fighter represents. Now, who do I think will win this fight? Like I said, if they would have fought in the UFC, Luke Rockhold is without a doubt a way better mixed martial artist than Darren Till. No question. But so many unanswered questions when it comes to Luke Rockhold at this stage of his career, and so many unknowns. We have never ever seen Luke Rockhold compete in a boxing setting. I mean, yes, we saw him compete in bare knuckle, but bare knuckle, the rounds are 2 minutes, fewer rounds, smaller ring, I mean, no gloves. So I believe that Luke Rockhold will have a better showing than what he did in bare knuckle. Why? I'll tell you why. Because when Luke Rockhold got tired versus Mike Perry, the only thing that he was able to do is nothing. He just stood there and took the shots and told the referee stop the fight because he was gassed and he was hurt. But in this fight, because he's wearing big gloves, I don't know, I'm pretty sure that they're going to fight in 10-ounce gloves. I mean, 10-ounce gloves are not big gloves, but they are definitely bigger than bare knuckle. So one thing that Luke Rockhold will be able to do in this fight is when he's gassed or he wants to have a break, I believe he's going to shell and he's going to hide behind his high guard, behind the big gloves, which might save him some time and some punishment. But again, Luke is 40 years old, Darren 32. I don't know. More than likely, Darren Till will win this fight, but I will be rooting and praying and hoping that the legend, one of my favorite fighters, for a long time I've been watching Luke Rockhold, ladies and gentlemen. I remember I watched his UFC debut versus the Juicehead, Vitor Belfort. And ever since then, I became a fan of Luke Rockhold. And even though many people hate this man for some reason, I understand why, but I'm rocking with Luke Rockhold.